buy my course. We are in such a world of the buy my course economy, right? Anyone really now on social media or online who has any knowledge in a field is making a course. And the reason is because most of the time, in order to make a lot of money, you're not going to be getting a ton from the actual viewing services themselves, right? YouTube does not pay creators a ton until you get really, really big. You know, Instagram, Spotify, whatever it is, doesn't pay a ton until you get really, really big. And what they kind of always say is by the time you're making good money from that, you've probably made it somewhere else. And so at some point, people realize that their product or their service or their information that they're sharing is valuable. And the best way to capitalize on that is to make it somewhat exclusive, put up a pay barrier, and sell a course. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with selling a course. I'm not necessarily against it. But what I see a lot of people doing is having all these sort of debates online about which course is the best, which course is better, which one has more information, which is cheaper. And there are considerations. There are things to account for. If you can't afford a course, you can't afford it. You know, maybe someone is more credible in a field than another. However, I wanted to take a second and explain, at least in my head, the reason that courses work is not usually the actual content in the course, right? There are specific certifications. If you're getting a certification for anything, that directly contributes to what skills you're allowed to do at work, or, you know, lets you do a new side job or something that pays better. That's completely different. I'm not talking about certifications. But courses, in the sense of just people's knowledge online in the buy my course, you absolutely can get people who are very knowledgeable and who share things you've never heard. But what you'll see in a lot of the reviews for courses is something along the lines of, I learned these 2 things and everything else I can find for free online. But that's not really what it's about. At least in my thinking and experience and what I've observed in the world, the reason courses work, there's 3 main things. The first is a weird analogy, but I think it works similarly to how Ivy Leagues work. I've never been to an Ivy League, so I'm not dissing on it, I don't know. But if you think about it, an Ivy League school does not actually have to give you a better education than any other school in order for their students to be high performers. The reason that Ivies work so well, I think, is because what they do is they offer a good education. I'm not disagreeing with that. But they separate out only the highest band of students who are applying. It's the equivalent, it literally is, taking the top 1% and sticking them in one place. It's taking the top 1% of college athletes, basketball players, for example, and putting them on an NBA team. That's why the NBA is so much better than a college team, right? It's not necessarily that the coaching or the practice they're going to do is that much different, right? It's that you're already just grabbing the most exceptional and putting them together in their own field. Now, there's debates about, you know, that I don't have any hard numbers on this is exactly what. It's probably one of many factors, okay? However, I think that it's kind of similar. The reason that the online courses do often work is because you've separated out people who are motivated, someone who is willing to stake something. And that's kind of the second part. You're going to be more consistent with something if you put money at stake. If you find an online free fitness plan, it's kind of easy to just like, well, you know, like, I don't really feel like doing that today. But if you paid like, I don't know, whatever you're paying, 30, 40 bucks a month for someone to give you a custom fitness plan, is the fitness plan necessarily that much better than the free one? Doesn't have to be. The fact that you paid for it will make you want to get your money's worth. So you're more likely to do it. And then the third thing is structure. Do not undervalue structure. I have noticed this so much in my own life. There were so many days where I have put off making a video, I've put off video editing, I've put off a personal project, anything that's kind of what I'm trying to do on the side, on my own. With the exception of being sick, I will not miss a class. I will not miss a day of work, unless there was some kind of sickness or emergency. I've never just not shown up to work because I didn't feel like it. I've never just not shown up to class because I didn't want to go. And it's just because there's someone else there and there's a structure. I know I have to be there for that time, and that creates a sense of urgency in my head. And so I think that we often undervalue that. It's one of the reasons that trying a project, YouTube or otherwise, or trying to be an entrepreneur or any of that, is often a lot harder. It's not always that you're working more difficult work necessarily, but it's that you have to be completely responsible and disciplined enough to keep showing up when there's no one holding you accountable. And that can be really hard. So I think that that's one of the reasons why courses are often a good investment. Make sure it's one that's legitimate, that you can afford. But if you can, whatever your project that you're working on, people online will tell you it's a waste of money, and maybe the material is not actually the value, but someone to give you structure, to give you some helpful tips, especially if it's something you can continue to ask like Q&A for, and it's continued, like I said, and you're putting money at stake, it's isolating out a community of people who are interested. Sometimes it can be worth it. Depends on everyone's journey, but don't diss the whole idea of the buy my course economy, even if the courses aren't that good, because there is some psychology behind why they do help people. So I hope you guys found that interesting, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is ProGate Knowledge.